Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. And thank you to Katie for not only setting this all up, but doing the last minute bits that needed to overcome our technological difficulties. Um, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but in the moment in planning the reunion, I got hooked on the fact we were the last class as a class to be required to take Man in His World. And I wanted to go back and look and see, yeah, how did that come about? And I was amazed to see that the preparation actually started in 62. They dedicated a whole summer of 5 professors working to plan it between the summer of 63 to 64. And then it carried on until we got to take it. And then they decided not to do it because it just became too demanding, I think. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Henry, who taught Man in His World, taught it to us, and has a life history of teaching. 50 years, he told me this morning, 43 at Macalester, and he's still going. He's still going, he's still singing, and he's still whistling. So Henry, would you please share with us your thoughts on Man in His World? And then we will go to people who agreed to share their memories and the questions that were submitted. And welcome again.
Well, thank you very much. You don't recognize me because it's been 50 years and I wouldn't recognize you, but I have a picture of myself from 50 years ago. So here's what I looked like 50 years ago. Look at that handsome 37-year-old man. I'm very happy to talk about Man in His World because I like the course very much. It was very ambitious. The basic idea of it was that every student would have something in common. They would have one course that they had taken and that every other student at Macalester had taken. And it was also designed to introduce each student to the liberal arts and with the 4 divisions of fine arts, humanities, social science, and natural science. And so the faculty was drawn from all 4 divisions, and it was planned by a committee. The 5 people who worked in the summer were included 2 philosophers, Hugo Thompson and David White. They were very instrumental in designing the course. And historian Ernie Sandin, who had come the year before it began, became the coordinator of the course. Ernie had a very interesting management style. He would come in and there were the 17 or 18 members of the faculty who were teaching the course. And Ernie would say, here's what we plan to do. And people would get into a heated discussion that they didn't want to do what Ernie said they wanted to do. And so we would eventually break up. And when we met the next week, Ernie would say, well, here's what we agreed to do. And he would announce what he wanted to do. There were, in addition to it being a common course and a course that included every division, the instructor of the course was usually the advisor for that student. And that continued even after Man in His World collapsed, and every student had to take a freshman seminar, and the instructor of that seminar became your advisor. So there was something about Man in His World that was continued. One of the benefits of Man in His World, which was not for the students, but for the faculty who taught it, was that we got to know each other. We met once a week from all 4 disciplines, 4 divisions. And first week that Sung Kyu and I were on campus, we met each other at Man in His World. And we might not have met each other otherwise because he didn't go to the gym and exercise at the same time I did. He was off in the physics building and I was in Old Main. So we got to know people from the other divisions and they became good friends throughout the time that they and I were at Macalester. Now, it was the first year, which was the year before you took it, it was based on a historical organization, starting with the Greeks and looking at the literature of Greece, looking at the philosophy of Greece, looking at the history of Greece, looking at the scientific beliefs of the Greeks. So it was introduced by looking at Greek culture, which was very much included all the disciplines. Then we went through the centuries to look at other developments, literature, philosophy, history, science, paying attention especially to the scientific revolutions, the Copernican revolution, which revolutionized astronomy, changed it from the way it had been under Aristotle to a solar-centered astronomy. Then the Newtonian revolution, the introduction of gravity, the Darwinian revolution, introducing evolution, the development of psychology as an empirical science and not just that could be with implications that could be tested and not just what you tried to figure out thinking in your head, and so on. The second year, which was your year, the scientists wanted much more scientific method rather than just the history of science. And so part of the course was organized with the introduction of logic and of the idea of developing theorems and that had implications that could be tested. And so that was part of the organization, was trying to introduce the method that scientists used in modern science. I think the problem was, though, that it was too ambitious. We tried to include everything, every part of the liberal arts in one course, and that was probably too ambitious. It might have worked if it had been taught by a philosopher, but to get the scientists and social scientists and musicians to all teach everything in the curriculum stretched them too much. And so they rebelled and didn't want to continue to teach it. And so it evolved into freshman seminars where the instructor could decide what he or she wanted to teach. One of the questions people have asked is, how would you change it? Well, you'd certainly change the name. It would not be man in his world. It would be humans in their world, or living beings in their world, or something else like that. So the name would have changed. And I think it would not have been so ambitious. We could have had a sequence of courses. Maybe fall term, you did an interdisciplinary science course, and spring term, you did an interdisciplinary humanities and fine arts course or something like that. So that it wasn't quite so as ambitious as to include everything in the whole curriculum.